Most Christians say they want the Holy Spirit to lead their life. They pray for direction, they ask for signs, they wait for clarity. But if we're honest, what we usually mean is this: God, show me what you want, and I'll decide if I like it. We want guidance, but we still want control. And that tension is the reason so many believers feel spiritually stuck. We've been taught that being led by the Holy Spirit means reading more, praying more, worshiping more. And those things matter, but you can do all of that and still never actually surrender control. You can pray every day and still micromanage your future. You can fast and still refuse to obey the one thing God already told you to do. Activity is not surrender. Noise is not obedience. Here's the truth most people don't say. The Holy Spirit is not silent. He's not confused about your purpose. He's not struggling to figure out what to tell you. The problem is rarely God's willingness to speak. The problem is our unwillingness to yield. We ask for direction while secretly hoping He confirms our plan, and when He doesn't, we assume He's quiet. You can't be led if you're always steering. Imagine sitting in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel, telling God, "Take me wherever you want." That's how most of us live. We want divine guidance without releasing human control. But leadership requires authority, and authority requires surrender. The Holy Spirit does not compete for control. He leads those who step aside. This is why many believers feel spiritually dry. It's not because God left them. It's because they're exhausted from trying to manage a life that was never meant to be self-led. Anxiety rises when control is in the wrong hands. Peace comes when authority is in the right ones. And the Holy Spirit brings peace not by giving you more information, but by taking over direction. So before we talk about hearing His voice, before we talk about clarity, before we talk about purpose, you have to ask yourself one honest question: do I truly want to be led, or do I just want reassurance? Because those are not the same thing. And the answer to that question changes everything. One of the biggest misconceptions about being led by the Holy Spirit is that He's going to overpower you, that if God really wants something from you, He'll force the door open, rearrange your life, and make it undeniable. But that's not how He works. The Holy Spirit is not aggressive. He doesn't shout over your will. He leads. He doesn't drag. And this is where many believers quietly struggle. You ask God for direction, but at the same time you're constantly analyzing, planning, calculating outcomes. You want certainty before obedience. You want guarantees before surrender. But the Holy Spirit doesn't operate on your need for control. He operates on trust. If you only move when everything makes sense, you're not being led by the Spirit. You're being led by comfort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The Holy Spirit often speaks in whispers because whispers require closeness. Noise drowns Him out. Busyness dulls sensitivity. Constant distraction makes spiritual discernment almost impossible. If your mind is always full, your spirit will rarely be still enough to recognize His prompting. And most of the time, what we call God is silent is really just, I haven't slowed down. Let's make this practical. If you truly want the Holy Spirit to lead you, you need space for Him to interrupt you. That means moments of silence before prayer. Not just talking, but listening. That means being willing to obey small nudges. That means when you feel convicted about something, you don't debate it for 3 weeks. The Spirit leads step by step, but He doesn't give the next step to someone who refuses the first. And this is where surrender becomes real. The Holy Spirit will not compete with your ego, your ambition, or your timeline. He will gently prompt, and then wait. He will convict, and then give you room to respond. He honors your free will. But the more you insist on controlling outcomes, the less room there is for divine direction. Being led means releasing the illusion that you have to engineer everything yourself. Everything I make here is for you, to help you grow, think deeper, and walk closer with God. But if you ever want to go deeper and support this mission, you can check out the Disciple or Pillar memberships. It's never pressure. It just helps us build more for those who truly want more. Most people are waiting for clarity before they obey. They tell themselves, once I'm sure it's God, then I'll move. But that's not how the Holy Spirit works. Clarity doesn't come before obedience. It comes because of it. And this is where many believers get stuck in a cycle of delay. They want the full map before taking the first step. But the Spirit usually gives direction one step at a time. Think about it. When you look back at the moments where you felt closest to God, it wasn't when you had everything figured out. It was when you said yes, even when it was uncomfortable. Obedience sharpens discernment. Every time you respond to a nudge, your sensitivity increases. Every time you ignore it, your heart dulls just a little. The Holy Spirit doesn't stop speaking, but you can slowly stop recognizing His voice. Here's what this looks like practically. Maybe it's forgiving someone you've been avoiding. Maybe it's ending a relationship you know isn't healthy. Maybe it's starting something you feel unqualified for. The prompting may not come with thunder and lightning. It may feel subtle, but the longer you debate it, the heavier it feels. That weight isn't confusion, it's conviction. And the reason obedience unlocks clarity is simple. Movement reveals direction. When you stand still demanding certainty, everything feels foggy. But when you move in faith, even imperfectly, the next instruction becomes visible. It's like walking at night with a flashlight. The light doesn't show you the entire road, just enough for the next step. And once you take that step, more is revealed. The Holy Spirit leads people who are willing to move, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but faithfully. He doesn't require you to understand everything. He asks you to trust Him with something. And if you're constantly waiting for a louder voice, a bigger sign, a clearer confirmation, you may miss the quiet instruction already sitting in your spirit. So instead of asking, "Why isn't God speaking?" ask, "What has He already said that I haven't done?" That question alone can shift everything. Because the breakthrough you're waiting for might not be in a new revelation. It might be in an old instruction you've been postponing. At the core of all of this is a deeper question most people avoid. We say we want the Holy Spirit to lead our life, but what we often mean is that we want Him to protect our comfort. We want guidance that keeps us safe. We want direction that doesn't disrupt our plans. We want clarity that doesn't cost us anything. But being led by the Spirit was never about safety. It was always about surrender. When the Holy Spirit truly leads someone, their life changes. Sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, but always internally first. Your priorities shift. Your conversations change. Your tolerance for compromise decreases. The things that once satisfied you start to feel empty. And that transition can feel uncomfortable, not because God is absent, but because He's reshaping you. The truth is, being Spirit-led requires courage. Not loud, dramatic courage, but daily, consistent courage. The courage to say no when everyone else says yes. The courage to step out when others hesitate. The courage to follow conviction even when it doesn't make sense on paper. The Holy Spirit doesn't just guide your decisions. He transforms your desires, and that transformation requires trust. Here's something powerful. The more you surrender, the less anxious you become. Because anxiety feeds on control. When you believe everything depends on you, pressure builds. But when you truly let the Holy Spirit lead, responsibility shifts. You still act, you still work, you still choose, but you're no longer carrying the weight of being your own God. Peace begins to replace pressure. This is what it means to let the Holy Spirit lead your life. Not chasing emotional experiences, not waiting for dramatic signs, but walking in daily surrender, listening more than speaking, obeying quicker than debating, trusting deeper than understanding. It's not flashy, it's not always easy, but it is freeing. So if you really want to be led, start with surrender, not partial surrender, not conditional surrender, real surrender. Release the timeline, release the outcome, release the need to control how it unfolds, and watch what happens when you stop steering and finally allow the Holy Spirit to guide the direction of your life.